At this time, I'd like to introduce our panel discussion moderator. Many of you know him as a multiple-time winner of the District 49 International Speech Contest. He's gone on to represent us at the Toastmasters International Semifinals Contest. Although he hasn't physically won the World Champion of Public Speaking trophy yet, he and his wife Liz make some first place Kahlua pig. Everyone, please welcome our panel discussion moderator for today, Mr. Kane Kamano.
Aloha! Welcome, everyone. Let me chew this down. I didn't practice that. Hey, we're going to have a great time for the next hour. I'll be interviewing our world champion finalists and first place winner, second place winner. And so let me just jump right into the introductions to waste no time. We have a lot of questions to get through. Thank you for those who submitted their questions. Here we go. In the pink corner, hailing from North Carolina, visiting us today via South Carolina, because I just heard she had a new granddaughter. Congratulations. In her final speech, pretending not to know, she asked her audience to ask themselves the questions, what are you pretending not to know? She may be pretending eating a Subway sandwich right now. Please help me welcome the first place female finisher in the world, Linda Marie Miller. Yeah. Welcome. And now, in the blue corner, he hails from the beautifulest city that I've never visited, Austin, Texas. He is our world champion. In his speech, the librarian and Mrs. Montgomery, he reminded us that the victory, my friends, is in the try. Please help me welcome the 2020 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mr. Mike Carr. Yeah. Woo! Yes, Mike. Eat it. Eat it. Yeah. All right, my friends. Welcome. Please unmute yourselves. Oh, you can't unmute. Edine, can we take care of that? Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
How are you guys this morning?
Wonderful.
Good. I have a lot of Subway sauce at the back of my throat right now. So maybe Linda Marie should get the first question.
I have lettuce in my teeth. Let me rinse it out.
I don't even have a napkin. I just got to use my hands. So,
so glad to be here.
I've got a shirt. Awesome. That's what we do in Texas. We just use our shirts.
Why not? All right. And just for the audience members, just if you're coming in late, you might want to put yourselves on speaker view so you can see how this panel is laid out very nicely. All right. Let's just jump right in. You know, the first question is kind of, for me, an obvious question. It's been a little over 2 months since you guys won. Have you gotten your trophies yet? More importantly, how has life treated you, for better or for worse? Linda Marie.
Yeah. So I cannot get a good review or a good evaluation from my club anymore. They don't touch anything. They no, we got nothing for you. So that's one thing. Another thing is I've been traveling around the world virtually a lot, speaking morning, noon, and night, meeting some amazing people. I am just amazed at how big Toastmasters really is. I'm kind of a newbie in Toastmasters, and that has been stunning to me. And I quit my day job this week, actually, on Tuesday. So life has changed drastically since that speech was given, and created One Shared Humanity, which is a huge movement that is just really blown up into something. So that's it. Everybody join One Shared Humanity on Facebook. Yeah.
There you go. Feel free to plug anything you want at any time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations by quitting your day job. I wish I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what about you? Did you get your trophy yet by any chance?
Yes. Yeah. Took a little while. They're actually still in their boxes because my family has said, well, we want to, because there wasn't a big stage where they said, hey, come on up and get a trophy. They said, we want to do a trophy ceremony at some point in the future. So they've asked me to leave those to the side, but so that'll happen. I'm honoring what they want to do, but did get those, and
Nice.
changes have been, I've been telling people that they need to go join Linda Marie Miller's movement because I
Yay.
so believe in it. So appreciate, Linda Marie, what you are doing and what you've done. Have likewise received lots of invitations from all over the world and get a chance to, on a Saturday morning, be in India, and then be in Cameroon, and then be in Hawaii, and then be somewhere on the East Coast of the United States, which is a whole lot of fun. I do have a day job that I love, so I've not quit that. I've actually included a third day job in the meantime, that it's going in with some partners and probably doing more training, research and training together. But have been, I'd say the biggest thing has been just, and I think Linda Marie, I think you and I talked about this, just the overwhelm of invitations that have come in. That's probably been the most challenging thing, is being able to get up on top of all those. So anybody who emailed me that I've not emailed back, I certainly apologize. Thank you for your patience. I'll certainly email you back, but it may be next year.
No worries. Yeah, I so super appreciate you just being here, taking my question. I think I messaged you 7 days after you won, so I already knew you probably were super busy by then. But talk about a little bit, you guys mentioned the good things, the good changes, or good, for the audience members, you know, I've followed these two around for the last month doing interviews, and I've heard some of the things for the worst. So Linda Marie, what was your experience, if you don't mind sharing, just to give us a wider view of what's going on in your life?
I'm not sure anything bad has happened in my life. Maybe you can remind me. Maybe I see everything through rose-colored glasses. I see everything as an opportunity to, but I have, obviously, my speech, anybody who saw my final speech wouldn't be surprised to know that I also got a little bit of hate mail.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
because, you know, there are people that are not in alignment with what I'm about in the world. And in the United States, that's at an elevated level, you might say, given what's going on, been going on here in the United States. Only negative response in the United States, none from outside of the U.S. Gladly, but thankfully. But there are, and you know, from a couple of particular states actually. So I tell my Black friends, you don't want to go to these two states probably. you got to go to the other side, drive around. So that's, and this has been the challenging thing for me. Do I respond to those emails? And indeed I do. I do, because One Shared Humanity is drawing a circle around everybody. So it's easy to get people that aren't racist on board for One Shared Humanity, but I stand for a world where everybody is on board. So I responded back and tried to open some dialogue, some thoughtful conversation about the differences or what it is about my final speech that bothered them. And so it's but that was a little bit difficult to do, those responses. And so we'll see what happens with it. But I stand for a world where everybody gets that they matter.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that inside information, because I think it's important for us to know that even though we disagree, we can agree to disagree and just still be kind about how we respond to each other. Anyway, so one of the challenges I took away from Mike, obviously, after winning Mike, I assume, you kind of mentioned that you're super busy, right? But let's take a step back and talk about your journeys here. So, for example, Mike, you've been a Toastmaster member for about 25 years. Linda Marie, just for a few, right? So looking back, what were some of the key factors you feel that brought you here to this point? Mike.
Key factors that world champion. I would say the first one is I'd lump it under the idea of perseverance, but that's really, I'm giving myself too much credit if I say perseverance. It was developing a mindset of just continuing to move forward, focusing on only those things that I can control. I cannot control if a judge or a group of judges is going to like a particular speech. What I can control is learning about what types of speeches judges vote for, what kind of presentation. I can control my practice session. I can control the feedback that I get and from whom. And that's really important. I think later on you're going to ask a question about that, about from whom do you get feedback. And I changed a little bit this time who I got the majority of my feedback from, and that made a big difference, it looked like. So I would say I would say a big factor was actually taking my eye off the goal. I quit a few years ago saying I want to be the world champion of public speaking at some point, because that had become too discouraging in my learning process. And I just focused on a message that I really believed in and and delivery of that message the best it could be. And that really, I would say, made the most amount of difference.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, being one who's been competing on and off for 10 years, you know, I get that, because maybe I did in the beginning try and put the trophy first, winning first, making sure I look perfect first. But I'm so glad that, like you, Mike, I've came to a realization. So Linda Marie, what about you? What are some of the key factors that brought you here to this point? You've only been a Toastmaster for 3 years, I think. Is that correct?
No, a little over 2 years. I think it was September of 2 years ago. So a little 2 years and a month. But and when I joined, my friend who enrolled me in joining said, "Oh, you're going to join, and you're also going to be the VP of Education." So I joined and became VP of Education straight away. So I learned about how to be a VP of Education, but then came this thing called the TLI, which I guess they call it that everywhere, where you had to go and you get your points so that the club can get, and we were on double secret probation. Our club was not doing well. And so we were in big trouble. So we had to get all the points and get back on the board and get more members. So we went to this TLI. So I went to this TLI in Charlotte, which is a couple hours from where I live. And I chose a session. We the four of us divvied up which session we'd go to. And I went to one, and Kevin Johnson was speaking. And he had made it to the finals. And he lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. So here was this guy get up there and talk about a contest, being in the contest. And I thought, wow, there's a contest? That's cool. You know, maybe we should look into that. And then I forgot about it. And then a few months later, here it comes up and they're talking about the contest. And someone in my club wanted to join the contest, but she wasn't eligible because she hadn't given enough speeches or something. So our area director said, Linda Marie, you should just give a speech. So I pulled out a message that I have for the world. I've got more than a few at my age. And I went and gave the speech at area and won and went to division. But every time the level, they said, oh, there's another level, there's another level. So I was just kind of like being led by people saying, no, now you do this and now you do that. And I kept telling my husband, well, the next one, that's it. I won't make it past that because now these people know what they're doing. And now up here, these people are really good. And then the semifinals. So, and I'm going to reiterate what Mike said, that you have to get your thoughts off of winning something, because, quite honestly, this beautiful trophy, it's a beautiful trophy. A week after I'm dead, my son's going to throw that thing right in the trash. It is not anything that is life-changing to have, you can go buy one. I could go buy one and put world champion on it instead of first runner-up if I wanted to. And I could probably do that for $25. Get a really nice trophy. But it's not about that. And if you are competing and you get your head off of the winning, then you have a chance of winning. But if you are about the mechanics of being perfect and doing a perfect speech, then you will be doing a speech and not being a message. And you never make it to the podium. That's just, that's just the truth. And I think you'd agree with me, Mike, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, well said.
yeah.
What are some things that inspire you guys? Maybe it's past motivational speakers or books you've read, quotes you've seen. What would you say, Linda Marie? Something really quick, insightful. Maybe we want to read it too or be familiar with that author.
Yeah, Mel Robbins, you want to watch what she has in the 5-second rule, especially if you're afraid of speaking. Mel Robbins is someone that I really like. Eckhart Tolle, you know, I am a real fan of Heidegger's work. I'm an ontological coach, so anything that has to do about the psychology of beingness, which I think is the key to success, the key to relationships, the key to living a life of no regrets. So those are kind of the people that I not follow. Heidegger's long gone, of course, but I'd say Eckhart Tolle and Mel Robbins and Kent Nerburn. Read everything Kent Nerburn puts out.
Awesome. I'll look into that. I love Mel Robbins, by the way. Mike, I see some books behind you. What inspires you?
I would say on presentation skills, there is a comedian. I think the ones who tend to inspire me are comedians who actually say something in their comedy as well. Mm-hmm. So there is a comedian, little known comedian named Michael Jr. He's done a TEDx talk, and it's great because he has a heart for doing good in the world, and comedy is his avenue to do that. So, and he also talks about what makes something funny and the way he learned that. So Michael Jr. inspires me. Mike Birbiglia, I would like to give keynote addresses the way Mike Birbiglia does a show. And in Mike Birbiglia, he gives messaging in terms of story structure. Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, the content is good. The structure is great. And I'm actually experimenting with giving speeches the way Charles Duhigg writes each of his chapters. I call it a cascading V structure. And we can talk more about that if we want to later. But in terms of content providers, anything written by Ryan Holiday, he brings forward modern Stoic thinking, and Stoicism is not what we think. It's not being very serious. It has a lot of joy to it, but it really focuses on those things we can control and not being emotional about those things we cannot control. And Ryan Holiday tells stories. He's a great storyteller. Anything by Ryan Holiday. Who else? Anything by Daniel Kahneman. It's deep and meaty, but it's on decision theory. He's a Nobel Prize winner. So I'll stop there.
Okay.
I want to write these down. I hope we're going to see these later. Send these to me, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, everyone will get the recording when we get done
good.
with it. So yes, we can definitely review it. And definitely that question was for the audience in a way. If you want to be a world champion, what are world champions doing? What are they reading? Right? What are they thinking about? By the way, Mike, I love Michael Jr. I love one of his phrases, obedience is better than sacrifice. And I try and follow that advice. If you guys can ever jump on YouTube and watch Michael Jr., I highly, highly recommend him. He's one of my favorite comics. Yeah.
And he is a funny dude.
So super funny. You guys, you have to watch it. If you want to, actually, this is the perfect transition. If you want to learn comedy, go to the comedy sources. Michael Jr. is a great one. Mike Birbiglia is a good one too. But speaking of comedy, right after this, we're having the Humorous Speech Festival. 9 of the funniest contestants we've interviewed vying for top awards. So with that, we had some audience questions. They're kind of lumped in. I had like Harmony, Sharmini, Debbie. They asked, what are some of your thoughts regarding humor? You know, how do you uncover humor in your speeches? Are you good at it? How do we get better at it? Do you even need humor in an international speech contest? Because one of you did not. Let's go with Mike.
Okay, I'll try to take those. If I forget something, come back and ask me again. Yeah. I'm not naturally a funny person. I am a appreciator of humor. My wife births funny children, and I like to laugh. So I've had to work on that. In fact, one of my clubs right now in Toastmasters is Laughing Matters Toastmasters, where laughing really matters. And the reason I'm a member, I'm a newbie. There are great stand-up comedians in that, and I just practice because I need to raise my game in that area. That's my next step, more humor and keynotes. So I would say, starting out, a lot of people say, I'm not funny, but we can learn to be funny. And there are 3 things I would suggest focusing on first. One is surprise, that if the brain, when it is surprised, if it's something somewhat joyful, the natural response is that we laugh, and that actually builds rapport with the speaker. And so Michael Jr. talks about this in his TEDx talk, where you say, like my daughter one time said, I love to surf big waves, small waves, and the boys lacrosse team. So it's the surprise of the third item that causes our brain to laugh. And you can play with that structure. So surprise is one. The second one is callbacks. I'm amazed how many times, like, I might say something about I'll think about it later, but a callback to a Subway sandwich right now would make everybody go, ah. So thinking about callbacks, and you'd be surprised how effective that is. I'm not that good at it, and I get told I'm funny all the time just for calling. The third thing is the ridiculousness of, if I come over here and I talk about something like this, then our natural, that's surprise, but it's ridiculous. It's over the top. And so, yes, Michael put a laughing emoji up there. I would say a novice, someone like me, working on those 3 things, we can add a lot of humor into our speeches. I don't think an international speech needs one. Linda Marie is a perfect example of that. Linda Marie got my vote for the top speech, by the way, in our contest. And she didn't have a ton of humor. I don't think you need one. Most contest speeches do, but I don't think it has to. Okay. I hope I answered everything and still gave Linda Marie time to answer.
Yeah. No, Linda Marie, we had a funny exchange about this event. Oh, can we unmute Linda Marie, please? Prior to Linda agreeing to joining us for this Humorous Speech Festival, we had a little exchange. She goes, but Kane, I'm not funny. And I'm like, Linda Marie, I'm not asking you to tell jokes. I'm asking you to be on a panel. And so here she is. What are your thoughts about humor, Linda?
Yeah,
Linda Marie.
one thing, I'm not good at humor, and I'm intentional on getting better at humor, because the truth is you make more money as a keynote address speaker if you're hilarious. So I get to find a way to be hilarious to make even more money. That's one thing. Secondly, I am a student of accelerated learning. And accelerated learning, the concept is that people learn faster and remember longer what hits their emotion center. And laughter is an emotion. Happiness is an emotion. So if you have humor in your speech, your speech is going to be remembered longer. The message you have in your speech is going to be remembered longer. So I've experimented. In my semifinal speech, I had humor. I thought I had humor. I don't know if people laughed at it or not, but I included some. But it's more kind of humor about my life, because as a mother and as someone who's going to be 63 years old, I've had a lot of events in my life that they didn't seem funny at the time, but when I look back, they're funny. So I try to use this turning things in my life into funny stories in speeches. But all of the things that Mike talked about are exactly what I'm in the process of studying. Brian Wolf has a great book out called The Non-Humorist Handbook, and I am just up to that to my eyeballs reading about that. And it's got all of the, it's more the element of surprise that I would use, because I'm not just a naturally funny person. So that's what I'd say. But I do think it's important. Now, I would say also that, and I'll tell you this, that my final speech did have humor in it.
Mm.
I actually used humor I told two different stories. I'm pretending not to know. What are you pretending not to know? I had two other things that I've been pretending not to know up front. And I'd been running it by people. And the week before, I got some evaluations from a very close group of high-level Toastmasters. And one of them said to me later, what are you doing? You know, if you're going to be about it, be about it. It doesn't need all that humor stuff, because I thought the humor at the beginning might make what I was going to hit them with more palatable. So the Sunday before the speech on Saturday, the Sunday before, I rewrote it and I got rid of all the humor. And then it was like, well, you know, if I make it to finals, it's going to roll, and they can't stream it. Once it's streamed, then it's going to be what it is, and there's not going to be any humor, because the real message I wanted to tell didn't call for humor. It wasn't, you know, so I say it depends on your message. If your message will be enhanced by humor, then definitely use it. If being remembered by the judges is important, and the rest of your speech isn't strong enough to have them remember, you don't have enough accelerated learning type techniques in it, or neural linguistic programming in it, then definitely you want to include humor and get good at it, practice it. Join an improv.
Yeah, definitely.
Or something like that.
One of my first contest speeches, semifinal speeches in 2011, it was about forgiveness. I had 0 humor lines, and that was planned. That it's about forgiveness. You know, I had a really, really sad story in there. And so I didn't place, and I didn't expect anything. So, but I won't name the name, but I went up to one of the world champions and asked him, who was in the room, he saw my speech, hey, you know, what do you think about my speech? He said, you know, Kane, let me tell you this, that it's not guaranteed that if you have humor, you'll win a Toastmasters contest. But him and I disagree on what he said next. He said this, what I remember. But Kane, it's pretty much guaranteed if you don't have humor, you'll lose. Mm-hmm. And so I've always kind of taken that advice for the last 10 years, and I've added humor in my speeches, and it just makes it more fun. But there's important stories to tell, you know, as well. So moving into crafting speeches, in fact, how do you decide on what your theme is, what you want to talk about? Is there a process, or what is the process that you guys go through as far as writing? Do you have any challenges in writing a speech? Do you guys even write out your speech? How do you put that all together? Let's start with Linda Marie.
Yeah, I always start the same, whether I'm writing a training or a speech. I start with how I want people to be different at the end of my speaking, whether it's a 2-hour keynote or a 7-minute Toastmaster speech. How I want people to be different, and as a result of being different, what will they do different in their lives, and what difference can they make in the world as a result of, because I think our speech is powerful. Our speaking is powerful. And I think that other Toastmasters believe that. That's why they join Toastmasters. They want to make a difference in the world. I don't see anyone in Toastmasters who just wants to kill time. They want to be able to make a difference in the world. So I start there. And then, whatever the audience is, who is it called for? With the world audience, the message was clear how I wanted people to be different. At the end of that, I wanted to open the hearts and minds and change the hearts and minds of people that are not an oppressed population, and have them wake up to the oppressed population, no matter where they were in the world. That I was clear. And as being different, I wanted them to take action on it. So I said, so what kind of speech do I get to tell, given the experience that I had, which caused me to want people to be different? What kind of speech would I give? And then I start fashioning the speech. And I walk, and when I'm walking, I'm talking segments of a speech, trying different segments. Well, this would work, and I'm going to try that and move this. And ultimately, I type the whole thing out, because I need a word count, because I know how many words I can speak powerfully in 7 minutes. 10 minutes, 10 words more than that, I'm rushing. I can't have effective pauses. I'm going to have a problem. So I am a real big proponent for myself of word count because I know how many words I need to have. I write the whole thing out, I rearrange it, and then I do this. I deliver it, I get feedback, and I rewrite. Deliver, feedback, rewrite, deliver, feedback, rewrite. And that was the key for me. And speaking it out loud many times to try different vocal varieties, to see where impact, what words needed emphasis. So, and most of that was done by myself. But then I gave it 4 times to 4 different groups of people to get some intense feedback.
Awesome.
But that's
yeah,
my process.
Thank you so much for sharing. I tell everyone, yeah, get used to the word count. Time yourself how many words you speak per minute. So for me, it's about 100 to 120 in a speech. So I know 700 to 840 words. I better not have more than that on my paper. But I love your process because I do the same thing. I record everything first and then I transcribe it. But Mike, what about you? What's your process? Is it similar? Is it different? Oh, can we unmute? Sorry. Zoom moderators, if you're going to mute everyone, just make sure you unmute us right after. Can somebody? Thank you.
Oh, that was my fault. I muted myself and then I was not able to unmute myself. So
yeah, don't mute yourself. Stay.
All right. Yeah, my process is it somehow begins with a story, and I either back into the story about something that I think about, something that is a highly held belief, and there is a, if I think through that, there's a story about why I believe that. Or sometimes I hear a story or I see a story, especially in my family or personal, that I think then it's the reverse of that. Okay, what did that teach me? Why is that interesting? And I would encourage everyone on the call. It is a simple mind game to begin to just be observant. Real quick story. I spent one day trying to add more humor into my speaking. I was traveling to, I think I was somewhere in Arizona for a meeting. Back on the day where we could actually fly. Can you believe that? And so I just started writing down. I tried to be observant. What is funny about this day? And I saw so many things that I could go through that were really funny that I would have forgotten had I not been purposing to write those down. Like, for example, the guy I sat with on the plane, I said, where are you from? He told me, and he said, where are you from? I said, Austin, Texas. And he said, oh, Austin, I hate that place. So, I mean, that's funny. And I happened to write it down. But every day contains things like that. So to me, it starts with a story and then it builds out from there. I think about what does that story teach me? Or what could that story teach? And play with that a lot, walking, playing with ideas, and then what could be an entertaining way. And I think this is where humor becomes important, because if you really, really, really want to say something in this world, we can say the content should stand on its own, but the reality is that we all live inside our own heads. And so if you really want something to translate, then we want to tickle the mind of our hearers to get them engaged, to be prepared with fertile soil when we, bam, land the message. And humor, so I think about what's an entertaining way. So I will, like Linda Marie, I speak at about 114 words a minute because I love pregnant pauses in a speech. And so 800 words a minute for a 7-minute speech. It has to be a little less than that if it's on a bigger stage and more people in the room, because it takes a while for laughter to go back and come back again. And I always write it out. I end up at about 1,000 to 1,200 words, and then I have to cut it back. And then it's just, how could this be more entertaining? And then I started bouncing it off some coaching, this year. And that's how and then I build a mental outline. I can talk more about that later if you want me to, but I build a mental outline about how I do that. It's very visual in my mind's eye, and I speak from the outline. I don't memorize the speech.
Yeah. Let's talk there, Linda Marie, and well, we'll start with Mike actually. As far as, because I memorize every single word when I do my speeches. That's just how I do it. I'm good at it. But as I heard, Mike likes to do the outline method. I have a question about, when do you guys think about your titles for your speeches? Do you do it? Some speakers I talk to, they do it first. And I'm like, whoa, I'm kind of surprised by that. How do you guys do it? But yes, talk about that, about how do you practice memorizing your speeches? Mike.
How do I practice? I write it out, but then I build a mental outline. I do that. I walk mentally around my house. I come in the front door, and that's my starting story or concept. And then I turn to the left, and there's a dining room. And so so every room is a major point. So in the dining room, the first thing I want to say sits in the first seat to the left, and then the next seat, well, here, so you can see, here's the dining room table. First point here, second point here, third point here, fourth point here, fifth point. And at some point I run out of points, and then I go into the second point, which is in the kitchen. And each point is around the cabinets as I go around. So that's the way I do it. I used to memorize my speeches, and then I tried something different. Someone suggested speaking from the memory. And when I videotaped my speech, I noticed, at least for me, I'm not as good as you are, Kane. For me, I could tell a difference. I was more relaxed. And part of the reason was there was just slightly more tension whenever I didn't have it completely memorized. And that tension pulled out energy. For example, in my final speech, in the world champion speech, because I didn't have it memorized, there is a point where I'm talking about the Toastmaster world and the glitches that have happened. And I said, that's what innovation is like. And then I said, glitches happen. That was a complete ad lib in the moment, because I was talking to individuals, and that's what I thought about. That came out. I've heard so many people come back around and say, that was one of my favorite laugh lines, is glitches happen. And that I didn't think about that in the writing process. So I want things like that to come out. The risk is I could say sometime. In the Toastmaster world, you can get dinged for that. I think in real communication, though, that's worth the risk, to truly communicate to someone across the audience. And then the other question was
speech titles.
Oh, I give a working title at the beginning, but I don't settle on a title until this is going to sound woo-woo. I kind of let the speech tell me what the title is at some point.
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah. And what I would disagree with, Mike, is you're called world champion for a reason. So you're a better speaker than me, my friend. And what an interesting process you go through. I've kind of heard that before, but to use your physical room as the outline for your speeches, I'm going to try that one day. And when I win, I'm going to attribute your technique to that success. My friend, Linda Marie, what would you say as far as memory? Oh, can we unmute? Sorry, guys. Don't mute. Yeah. If we can try and avoid, go ahead.
I'm sorry, someone was banging on the door, and I thought, oh no, Mike's talking again, but so I muted myself. I do not memorize. I memorize a speech, and then I let the speech come out of me the way it wants to come out of me. And the reason is this. Now, it's different when we're in the virtual world, right? Because we're connecting with the camera. But on a stage, I use something called a panoptic glaze of awareness. It's kind of it's something I came up with, but it's, if I am I'm looking at the camera, but my peripheral vision is spread out, and I can see Mike over here. If Mike moves, I can see him, even though I'm not looking down at the computer screen. On a stage, if I'm looking at somebody as my eyes are moving through the audience, I can see everything going on, and I can see the energy that's happening in the room. So if I'm speaking on a stage, and over here, people are, watching cute cat videos or checking their, emails, I know that's feedback for me. And I know that if I've just memorized something and I'm just going to continue on, that I'm not being intentional on people being what I want them to be different. So I know my message. I know the pace of my message, but then I give myself the freedom to say, I'm getting some feedback that what I'm being isn't getting it across. So I get to shift. I get to use other tools out of my toolbox. So, and that's just a way of through experimentation and playing with it. Because if you memorize a speech, I assure you, you will do a speech and not be a message. It will be too contrived. It will be too practiced. So I say give yourself whatever leeway you need to. Know the points you want to land, know your timing, and then trust. Now, I do know that at X minutes in the speech, I need to be this far along. And at X minutes in my message, I need to be this far along. So I do know that. So I practice where I need to be on a timing, and then I let it flow through me. As far as the title, I always do the title last, and I always do the title so that it's not a giveaway of what the speech is about. That I don't want it to be, oh, this speech is about, how to ride a bicycle, and then give a speech about how to ride a bicycle. I always want people to think back on it, but I also want the speech title to be memorable to the message that I was portraying in the speech. And I think I'm a jeweler also. So, and when I'm creating a piece of jewelry, I have all my metal out in front of me. I have my saw, my torch, whatever, cabs or, stones, precious metal stones, whatever I'm going to set. And I have it all in front of me. And I think of it this way. And I think speeches are the same way. I have all of the tools in front of me, and I am the vehicle through which something is going to be birthed into the world. And I hone my skill as a jeweler, knowing how to solder and knowing how to use a jeweler's saw and knowing how to set stones. I use my skills and let whatever that piece of jewelry that wants to create itself into the world come through me. And I think speeches are the same way. So I think that's why Toastmasters is so brilliant, because it teaches us the skills, various skills, all different kinds of things, especially through pathways, that we can use and put them in our toolbox so that the message about our purpose in the world that wants to be birthed through us, through the power of our voice and the power of our speaking, can be more memorable and can better serve the world because of the tools that we've learned in Toastmasters.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Kane.
Go ahead.
So, you mind if I jump in, just because you had said in your emails to Linda Marie and me, especially if you guys disagree on something, and this is the point where I'll give an alternative viewpoint, an alternative fact, if you will.
Call it a yes and.
This is a
not a
yes,
no but.
Yes. This is a yes and. So Linda Marie's kind of the big word she used to survey the audience. I would suggest you try that, and try. I rarely give a speech, even if I'm standing in front of an audience of 3,000, I rarely give a speech to more than just one person. So if I'm just a quick example, if we were live, right now I'm looking at Kristen, and if Kristen is sitting on the 10th row, I'm going to speak directly to you. If it's virtual, here's the camera. I've got to put Kristen's face right behind the camera, glance down, and then look right at and say, Kristen, or no, I wouldn't say her name, but I would say, you probably want to try speaking intently to one individual, and the other 2,999 are going to feel that intensity. And then glance down, and Kim, I appreciate that if that brought a smile to your face, then that is important to you. And then Paulette, and I may not say those names, but especially live, turn and really zero in on one individual, and you can really have the conversation, and the broader audience feels that. So just try it. Yes, and try both. See what works for you.
Yeah, for me, I probably differ from both of you because, like I said, I memorize, but it's more than memorize, it's internalize, really. So my process takes me, because I speak it out loud first and into a recorder and then transcribe it, it's words that came out of my heart. So it's easier for me to remember. That's why I say I memorize my speeches word for word. However, because I know it, I've internalized it, I'm easy. I can still pivot, like Linda Marie, you were mentioning, being aware of what's going on in the audience. So that's my process. Thank you guys so much. I learned a lot just on that tidbit right there. But now let's transition. Both of you guys touched upon it a little bit. We are in a different world. We speak virtually now. So what were some of your top speaking tips in what we're dealing with today on speaking with Zoom? Virtual presentations. Let's say your top 3 tips each. Let's go, Linda Marie.
Okay, so for me, for the speeches that I gave, it was important to make connection. So I was giving that speech to 50,000 people, one person at a time. So it's very different if you're on a stage and the closest audience member is 50 feet away in the front row, and then the last row is, way back there. That's a very different approach than someone, a foot and a half away. So I took advantage of the fact that I was speaking directly into the heart of every single audience member that was sitting right in front of me. So I was speaking to that. It wouldn't have played off, on a stage. It would have been a much different approach. So the tip that I use is all about connection. So what I work towards is never moving my eyes away from the camera, ever. That's in the virtual world. That's what I strive for. So, and because I do that, I'm able to create connection, because most of the messages that I want to create are about deep messages, not humorous speeches, that kind of thing. So that'd be my first tip. The second one is, don't be a talking head. Move, get up, move around, create the stage. In the speech contest, they told us just a plain background, just plain background. Well, I was against a white wall and, with blonde hair, you couldn't tell where my hair ended and the wall began. So I had pictures behind me, and I broke the rules, and they weren't actually rules, they were suggestions, but I said, I'm not going to do that. So you have to do what works visually for your space, but I would say don't sit down, stand up if at all possible, and move around and use the space and be high energy. And then don't get psyched out by the fact that you're not seeing people, and definitely don't look at the computer screen. If you're giving your speech and you're just looking down here at all the squares and all the people's faces, I'm pretty sure you're not going to get the judges feeling like you're connecting with the audience. So I think that's one of so those would be my 3 tips for the virtual world. And I think, there are things, the beauty of the virtual world, the absolute beauty is not only can you travel the world and touch the hearts and minds of everyone around the world without leaving your living room. That's number 1. But number 2, you can really play with it. Mike, I use placards, and those wouldn't have played well on a big stage either. So I knew that I could fill up the screen with a thought or an idea or a hidden thing pretty effectively. If Mike was on a stage, doing this and doing that, it probably would have looked ridiculous, actually. But he couldn't have pulled that off, but for the virtual world, and he used it brilliantly. So I think that I want people to really experiment with this. And there was an interview I was in a couple of weeks ago, and one of the folks interviewing me said, and I think they're speaking a lot to a Toastmaster audience, said, do not come to the finals next year using placards like Linda Marie. You will be called out. You will be like, that's Linda Marie's, you can't use that. So no, you might use them in a different way. You might use them, whatever, but don't copycat what somebody else does. Come up with something that's original for you, that fits your message, and you'll do great.
Awesome, thank you. And just for the record, for the audience members, Linda Marie talked about standing when you're presenting. I have asked our panelists to sit. Mike Carr is a rule breaker. So just for the record, Mike, what are your top 3 tips for virtual speaking?
Number 1 is stand. Okay. So jump back to the prior question. That's an example of a callback. All right. It's not that inventive, but it brought a lot of, okay. So, and if you can do that, every single one of you can do that if you just look for those opportunities. So if I get 1,000 points if I can give a callback over the Subway sandwich. That's good before this thing's over with. So what would my three tips be? I think Linda Marie, I'll draft off what Linda Marie said. I think that's really good, because I hope virtual, jumping on my bully pulpit just for a minute, I think virtual in the real world outside of Toastmasters is here to stay, and it will become a hybrid. Live will definitely come roaring back, but there will be a lot of training and speaking that happens virtually. And so to build this skill set, I think we have a window of time, and we can really, Toastmasters can become the quintessential place for people to do that. Whenever we go live again, I'm actually writing, you're right, Linda Marie, that speech that I gave would not work on a big stage. I'm actually writing a training about how to take your virtual speech and make it effective and live. But I had a speech that was designed for a big, long stage just in case I made it to the finals, and it looked boring on virtual. So the first thing I would say is experimentation breeds epiphany. Try stuff. I tried blowing out this back wall by moving my camera outside. I have tried, some of you may have heard me say this before, but the day before the finals was recorded, my plan was to start the speech right here. And then the day before, in I think dress rehearsal or something, I was waiting, I had nervous energy, and I was just doing this. I thought, how do you play with this box? And when I got down here, I went, that looks like a little kid. In my speech, I start like a little kid. I could do that. And so the day before, just because I was experimenting. So experimentation breeds epiphany. Try stuff. I'm still trying to figure out how I can hang from the ceiling and drop down and come into, but it goes beyond Toastmasters. I believe we will have the opportunity, if you want to spread a broader message, you will have opportunity to experiment with that. So that's one. The other piece about virtual is we get the opportunity. Remember, I'm speaking directly to Eden right here. I can speak directly to it. So did you ever see the Karate Kid when Mr. Miyagi said, "Don't hit the board to break it, you punch through the board"? It's the same kind of concept. We don't look at the camera. We look through the camera, and I put Elliot's face right here when I'm speaking to Elliot. I see Elliot's face, and I'm speaking through the camera on the other side, and that's a connection. What would be the third one is just maybe test it, see, video it, play it with the sound off, look like it looks too much, and you find the balance that the kinds of you'll know, but many times the kinds of things we have to do on a stage in front of 100 people might be like if we're standing at a cocktail party and all of a sudden I'm just talking to you like this, you're going to go, whoa, dude, you're in my face. That can be the feeling of virtual. And so experiment trying that out.
I'm going to jump in and add one thing. This is not an and, both and, but it's an and, yes, and. But this is additionally. One thing you want to do is get feedback on what you look like. So I'll give you an example. I have a lighting on me now that's a yellow light. I can do different colors, red, blue, whatever. If I do not have a yellow light on me, I look blue because I am so pale. And in different lights, when it shows up on Zoom, I look like there's something wrong, like I'm not getting enough oxygen. I mean, seriously. So you have to be responsible for how you're showing up. I also am blind as a bat and I wear glasses, but my glasses cause a reflection. And because I want to connect with people,
Did she just freeze? Or is that me?
No,
She's frozen.
I think she froze. Hopefully
Oh,
they
no.
can turn off her internet.
She'll be back.
She froze.
She'll
Okay.
be
She owe
back.
money to Jabba the Hutt?
Who said that?
Me, Jason.
Jason.
Sorry,
Was
I had to
that-
jump in.
Next with the audience.
There she goes.
Oh, sorry. You froze for a second.
Oh,
You're back,
no.
Linda. We got you. We
No.
got you.
You had
Have
just
good stable connection. That's what you need to have. There's
Yes.
my message.
you had just said I wear glasses, but it creates a glare, and then
Yeah.
that's where we lost you.
Oh, so I have contacts. So when I speak online, I wear my contacts so that I don't have that glare that causes people to not actually see, because, you know, windows, the eyes are the window to the soul. I want people to really be able to connect with me in my message. So I put my glasses aside and put contacts on.
Thank
And
you
have
both.
stable internet,
Yes, absolutely.
which I don't have at this Airbnb. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was one of my problems competing this year virtually at the division level, but I was able to get past it. Anyway, I love your points about testing, because I want to make a quick announcement. I know our crew was working hard. For some reason, our room was limited to 100 when we had 500 capacity. And so for all of you who are just joining us, we apologize. Thank you for being patient. With that said, we couldn't test. When we did all our tests, we couldn't test unless we had 100 people in our room to see what would happen if more people came in. So once again, we apologize on behalf of the committee. Moving along. If someone wanted to compete for the World Championship of Public Speaking or just be a professional speaker, what would be the top? You guys kind of touched upon it a little bit. I would say like perseverance, connection, things like that. But what would be some other top key tips or habits you feel they would need to be successful? Let's go, Linda Marie.
Okay. Know how to market yourself. Know what your niche is. Don't try to say, oh, I want to come speak to you. What do you want me to speak about? I can speak about anything. That, you know what your market is and go after your market. Hone your skill, learn humor. And I look at it this. I have a concept. I started a company called the Transformational Learning Consortium, and it's about accelerated learning, and it's for trainers and learning and development professionals and coaches specifically. And it's about being masters and mastery in action. And the way I look at it is mastery requires a continuing daily appetite of learning, taking on more, everything. It's never done. You're never there. So the greatest masters in the world don't say that they're there. They're still on the journey. So be prepared to be in the space of continually improving, being able to market yourself and knowing what your message is and knowing what niche your message falls into, and then going after that. And then you definitely, and I know this is probably another question, you definitely want mentors. You definitely want to invest in yourself. So invest in yourself means get coached by people that have been there before. Get coached by people who speak the way you want to speak. Get coached by people who have the approach you want to approach or whose beliefs you share. Do not be afraid of investing in yourself. So that would be my advice on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. Mike, what would you say? What are some of the habits or skills that speakers need to either win the international speech contest or just be a professional speaker?
Sure. And sorry, I didn't want to cough during Linda
Oh,
Marie's.
you're a little soft.
And I didn't want to mute myself either.
You're a little soft, Mike.
You're
Oh, I'm sorry.
Something,
Okay.
yeah, maybe unplug and.
Okay, is that better?
Nope.
Try it now. You're still
Nope.
too soft.
Can you, what if it's unplugged?
Here's a tip for everybody while he's doing that. Jabra earbuds, never fail. Jabra earbuds.
Nope, not working. What happened? You're not muted. Yeah. Make sure you check your mic, which mic you're using on Zoom. Nope. Okay. Are you trying to call in? Okay. Nope. Can't hear you. What if you unplugged your headset? Can you talk straight to your laptop?
I promise I didn't do this. This has nothing to do with me.
It's all COVID.
Yes. While we're waiting, Subway, eat fresh.
That's right. There you go.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, but a sponsor of this contest, Laulima Toastmasters. Thank you very much, Laulima Toastmasters.
By the way, vegan too. Who knew Subway had vegan? Great vegan sub, that's for sure.
Okay, I got your message, Mike. So let's continue on.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you kind of touched a little bit about coaching, Linda Marie. Have you got any specific coaching for your 2 speeches this year, or where did you get your feedback from?
I did, but I didn't get it from speaking professionals, because I am all about ontology, which is the study of being. And I believe that being a message wins contests instead of memorizing and doing speeches, that kind of thing. So what I got coaching from, I have some business partners that are, let's just put it this way, care enough about me to be totally honest with me. And I knew I could go to them for what's not working. I have this, I always say that, especially as you start winning levels, people are more prone to tell you what's great about it instead of what you need to work on. So I went to some people that in the world who are coaches and experiential trainers, which is a whole different line of thing that I do. I'm an experiential trainer. So I looked to them and gave my speech to them, and they told me exactly what wasn't working and what needed to be tweaked. And so I got a lot of feedback from them.
Awesome. Mike, can you talk? Can you say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So World Championship of Public Speaking and Professional Speaking. Here's the reality of the World Championship of Public Speaking. Any one of you could be more deserving than I am of that title, and any one of you could deliver a speech better than I could, because of the message that the creator has put in your soul and the unique way only you can give that. Now, the World Championship of Public Speaking is sometimes a bit of a crapshoot. You don't know what a group of judges are going to like on a given day in any given time. And so to a certain degree, I recognize I'm lucky. There were a lot of really good speakers that dropped out because they didn't want to do this virtually, or they didn't. And I kind of like the virtual format, and that played to my strengths. So there is no formula. And again, remember, one of my basic life tenets is focus on those things you can control and divorce yourself from those things that you cannot control, at least divorce the emotion. And so I think so there are things that judges tend to like over time. One of them is differences sell, similarities don't. Our brains like 2 very contrary things. We like both similarity and novelty. And so, like Linda Marie said earlier, not copying someone. Like if someone comes in and brings placards, then probably they're going to go, oh, no, that's Linda Marie's thing. If someone comes in and brings placards, never shows them, and just flings them at the camera the whole time, then people are kind of going to go, oh, the placards, I recognize that. Oh, and they're doing something novel or different with it. And so that's a concept to think about, that too many times you see some, like, I don't think that anybody who does this next year is going to win, because again, people are going to say, it's not novel enough. But there may be a version of that that does. So that's one concept, having a message that you really want to say to the world and bringing that across. Judges tend to like that. Also, I think seeking feedback from people who have made it to the finals, or one of the things, we may not get to that, but I took in a lot of feedback from clubs and others this year. And when I've made it to the semifinals, I really zeroed in on those, like Mark Brown. He studies what judges are voting for on the international level. So that's part of it as well. To transition on to being a professional public speaker, then they're added on skill sets. To be a professional public speaker, look, one of the realities is you've got to sell. You've got to go out and sell yourself, because that space is crowded. The professional public speaking area is more heavily weighted on content that can help people improve, whether it's their nonprofit, their company, their own personal lives, and presentation is a little bit secondary. I've got a good dear friend that speaks on attention management, and she would be the first one to tell. She makes well into six figures every year, and she would be the first to tell you that she's not great at storytelling and she's not the best presenter, but she gets hired over great presenters who really don't have something to say. And so research, data, that kind of thing, increasingly, especially in this COVID environment, that solves problems. The big thing in professional speaking is, what problem are you solving? And then it's getting that word out, blasting that word out, and making something very tight, getting a lot of professional feedback on what works and what does not work. And so the professional speaking world, they're looking for something different than Toastmaster judges are. And that's just a good thing to know.
I want to add one thing about something I saw, because I've not been in the...
Really quick, Linda Marie, we're
Yes.
running out of time. Really quick, go ahead.
Oh. Okay.
No.
I saw this a lot, and this is my first contest, and I saw it a lot. Don't use something sad in your life as a manipulation for sad, like to get people on board. Don't do that. Mike used it in a brilliant way in Blue, because he was talking about someone, a special needs person. I used it obviously in my final speech, but it wasn't a manipulation. So don't do that. It won't work.
Thank you both. We quickly run out of time. I just want to give you 30 seconds each. Linda Marie, how can we stay in touch with you?
LindaMarieMiller.com. Go to my website. If you want to, I've got a program starting up called Champions of Change. That's my signature body of work. If you want to get in on the next round of Champions Change, come leave me your contact information and I'll be reaching out to you. Come join One Shared Humanity. It's on Facebook. We are having a conversation, it's a 2-part series interview. Had the first half this coming Friday, the second half with Dr. David Camp, who wrote the White Ally Toolkit. You don't want to miss it. Come, but you have to be a member of the private group. Come join One Shared Humanity. Thank you. Love Hawaii. Can't wait to see the contest.
Mike Carr, thank you for posting that in. Any other words you'd like to share? How can we stay in touch?
Yeah, first, as my fellow humans, please go support the work that Linda Marie is doing. Beyond speeches, beyond contests, we are one shared human family, and Linda Marie is a prophet of that message right now. And I would ask you to please support that and give fuel to that message. Beyond that, I would say to you, you also are a Linda Marie. You have a message that this world desperately needs, and it's stuck in your ribs. It needs to come out. The world, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to the world to get that out. And that is, I'd love to help you do that if I can, through just ideas or whatever else we do that. Mike Carr Official, putting your email in there. As contest season starts, I'm going to start sending out just videos for that. I'm doing that pro bono for Toastmasters. That's where all my pro bono work's going this year. but on all the socials too. Feel free to connect. But you have something that we all need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my mission is helping you be the next Linda Marie, because every single one of you are, and our world will be better because of it.
They want to be first place. They want to be Mike, so you can be Mike.
I will tell you, I would rather never win this contest and change the world the way Linda Marie is changing the world right now than the reverse. So
that's our time, you two. We so appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. On behalf of Laulima Toastmasters and the committee, we are mailing you some special gifts. Here's a wooden box that's engraved. And then guess what? You have obviously you have a Subway sandwich free card. Subway, eat fresh. And then if that's not enough, we're sending you some Hawaiian chocolates. We're sending you some Hawaiian cookies. You're gonna get so thank you once again. That's our appreciation to you for being a part of our event. We love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll connect.
Thank you.
All right.
Aloha.
Aloha.